Hello and welcome to Mediumship Sparks on Bold Brave TV, as well as multiple other platforms. If you miss us live, you can find replays of the show on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and most major streaming platforms. I'm your host, Noelle Dean. I'm an intuitive medium and a licensed therapist. Whether you're looking to be sparked or the spark has already found you, welcome to today's show. So my one breath disclaimer is the information presented on the podcast is educational in nature and is provided only as general information and is not medical or psychological advice, nor is it a substitute for seeking licensed healthcare services. So big trigger warning on today's episode. We're talking about some deep stuff and
Yep.
we're not holding back here.
Yeah. Looking forward to it, actually.
Yeah.
Been looking forward to it.
Good.
Actually, so.
Yeah, me too. So everybody, this is my guest, Scott.
Hello.
Do you want to say a little bit about yourself, Scott?
Not much. I like playing video games, reading. I used to write a lot of poetry, used to create my own music as a kind of an outlet for things. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm a pretty relaxed guy, and I will protect those I care about, though.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I hope I'm that way too. I met Scott through his father.
Yep.
And Scott has a diagnosis that I find fascinating because I was sitting with what, as a therapist and a medium, could I bring to the show that would be of value, very specific for my set of skills. And it was to understand something that I think impacts everybody who hears things or sees things that other people don't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I get a lot of information also. A couple years ago, I had a sense that I was supposed to write a book helping people like self-evaluate or
Yeah. Do self-check-ins kind of thing.
Yeah. When they are having spiritual experiences, because the first thing is, oh crap, what if I'm crazy?
Yeah. Am I going crazy?
Yeah.
That's usually
that's the question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the big one everybody asks when they start that kind of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a friend who is also a therapist and a newer medium, had her spiritual awakening about 2-3 years ago.
Okay.
And we spent a lot of time as she was going through that. She didn't share a lot about what had happened. I talked to her recently. Oh, hey, it occurred to me I should do this as a podcast episode. So let me ask you, knowing that she's more well-read than I am about things, what's the difference between a medium and somebody with schizophrenia? Where's the line kind of thing? And she said, do you know what she said? She said, there is no line.
Yeah, that makes sense, actually.
I was shocked.
Yeah.
Like, really, I was like she blew my mind. And I think she might have had to say it like 6 times.
I honestly, I think it comes down to the way people's brains are wired, whether they're able to tap into certain things that other people aren't more often than others, or maybe you're just meant for a different purpose or something. That's why your brain is wired that way. Or 'cause I've been struggling with schizophrenia since I was about 11 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's when my symptoms started. I started seeing, he introduced himself, Omar.
Ah, we have to talk about Omar.
Yes, so yes. That's interesting character.
Do you want to talk about him now or do you want to wait?
But now is fine. Yeah.
Okay. What happened was Scott and I started the recording. We were just doing like a little test run and it kept not
trying to do a little test run.
And it kept not recording. And I was like, that's weird.
4, 5, 6 times. Yeah.
I think we did it like 5 times.
Yeah.
And then I asked Scott, wait, do electronics misbehave in your company? Because that seems
most of the time. Yeah.
And then I get a visual sense just in my mind's eye where I see whatever it is that I see of this like red figure, like actually a male energy. And I would say characterized as a demon over in this right-hand corner, just hanging out there. And I was nervous in doing this episode because I had heard that's the kind of thing that you see. And I was just like, I was scared.
I know.
And by the way, Omar, and anyway, so I checked in about him.
Yeah.
And then we had to negotiate with him to let us record. My immediate sense was that he was looking to protect Scott. And then I swear he brought up HIPAA, which is, if you're not familiar, it's like privacy, basically. So we both had to
assure him that, everything was okay. We all worked it out, paperwork and everything, all that. Yep.
But it really did take five attempts to be able to record. So I'm glad we're recording now.
Definitely.
And I was going to say something else about Omar. Even just talking to you about him, I was wondering, how is it for you to have somebody else be like, oh, I totally see that?
It's actually comforting. To be honest, it's actually
I
comforting for a
figured.
feeling,
Yeah. Okay.
for a difference, for a change. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
But also, interesting to me is I didn't get a feeling from you of there being an adversarial relationship.
Yeah, he's always just been there since I was a kid. So not always fully there. Sometimes just a little quick something in the corner of your eye, but it was always enough that you would know it was usually him. Yeah.
Okay.
So for the most
Interesting.
part, yeah.
Now, is there anything else that has been as constant as Omar in
Yeah,
your life?
actually, sometimes I see these little, they look like cats almost,
Mhm.
but they've got two tails that kind of twirl. Yeah, and they tend to roam around sometimes.
Okay.
But other than that, yeah, those are my two constants.
And when you say constant every day,
Pretty much, yeah.
okay.
Several times a day. Not just every day, several
Gotcha.
times a day. Yeah.
Okay. Fair.
And sometimes episodes are worse than others. Sometimes they, because I also struggle sometimes with voices. So there's that
Mm.
aspect. And my brain never slows down. It's just like constant motion.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That sounds exhausting. Yeah.
Sleeping is rough. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Sleeping is rough sometimes. But I've made it through over the years. And thanks to people like you, therapists and stuff like that, it's been great. And
Mhm.
it's really helped having a support system too. That's one of the big helps. And
Yeah.
that's why when you offered me the opportunity to come on here, I mulled it over and I thought, even if I can just reach out to one or two people, that's worth it.
Yeah. So it's interesting as I'm sitting here, I don't know how much this has come across in anything I've recorded, but of all the different senses that I use to pick up information, clear empathy, so really feeling the feelings.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just feels like intensity and it'll make my face cry, but sometimes it's just like pride or love.
Yeah. Just,
Sometimes it's
yeah.
sadness.
Just something, a little something washing over you. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm feeling that right now. And what I'm picking up from Omar is that he's saying about you that you are feeling cared about.
Yes.
And to me, that feels from him like love.
Good. I'm glad. I'm glad. I'm glad. Yeah, because there have been times over the years where I felt like I was not so much against him, but he had something against someone I was around or something I was doing or something like that. So because he's always been in my life since I was 11.
Pardon my ignorance, because I've got a lot of it around this, because I worked with clients, but
Right.
I was saying earlier when we were together that I hadn't really worked with anybody who had what would be considered psychotic features. So I would also call it clairvoyance, but we would also call those visual hallucinations,
Correct.
which would be under the category of psychotic features.
Yes.
Yeah, I would have expected you to feel victimized by Omar, but I'm not hearing that right
Yeah,
now.
no, because he's just been there for so long that it's really just become a part of my life, I guess you could say. It's just something that, okay, he's there so much that it's just second nature that he's just there.
He's giving me the word guardian.
Wouldn't surprise me, considering most of the time he's usually around when things are stressful. He'll really show up during times like that. Times of high emotion, which is another thing I really struggle with.
Mm,
My mood swings from really depressed to really happy.
gotcha.
I can get angry at the drop of a hat. I can cry at the drop of a hat. It's a struggle, but
Yeah, that's a roller coaster and a half. So.
yeah, like I said, it's good to have support systems and know that I feel like I'm really helping others by sitting here with you and doing
Yeah,
this. So,
yeah. And I hope this doesn't feel shitty, but
no,
it's,
no.
wait, I'm not there yet though.
Oh, okay. I was like, no, not at all.
Hopefully not. And I know you know this already, but when people start experiencing like hearing things and seeing things, their fear is to have the diagnosis you have.
Yeah, yeah, and unfortunately, that's a lot of how society is. Mental health, even though mental health has made a lot of progress in the past 10, 15 years, it's still one of those kind of hit and miss depending on the doctor you get, depends on whether it's still one of those kind of shh, don't talk about it things. And it's, oh, you have depression, okay, you have ADHD, okay. When you start getting into the more severe cases, that's when it really gets more hush.
And as we're sitting here, I wasn't expecting this to happen this way, but I feel like Omar is like really tuned into me. And I don't remember if I already mentioned this once we started actually recording, but I did feel like checked out by him quite a few times actually in the last like 2 weeks since we talked about recording. So we've negotiated a little bit,
Right.
and I had to move his energy out of my house.
Okay.
He's not the only one, but that happened recently. But even in this moment, I'm just feeling this thing in my head since you talked about your emotions going up and down. And I'm just feeling, I want to say like a heaviness. I don't want to overstate it, but do you have something that,
Yeah, I used to suffer migraines.
oh, okay.
Horrid migraines on my left side, to the point where I'd
Oh,
actually lose pretty much all my vision in my left eye. I'd get
gotcha.
pinhole vision.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And it starts, it's almost like I want to, it's almost like I would start feeling dizzy or something, like
Yeah.
my eyes are getting weird. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to reframe this positively. Thank you, Omar, for providing some general
Information.
reinforcement
Yeah.
and information that we're on the right track here and we're
Yeah.
connecting. And I did tell Omar that he would have his say. And I think after that, he agreed and let us start recording
Which is nice.
and stopped interfering with the electronics. So we're going to have, Omar's going to have his say. We'll
Yeah,
see what
yeah,
he wants
yeah.
to talk about. But okay.
Crazy. Which is today's.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
How do you feel? How do you define crazy? How do you feel about that word? And do you consider yourself crazy in general?
Honestly, I think the word crazy, when you say someone's crazy, it's just such a used term these days. So that, oh, the person cut me off on the road. That person's crazy. It's just such a used term that even my brother and I joke around when I'm having a shit day. Like, hey, I'm having a little crazy today. Yeah, it's the word crazy, I think, is old hat, I
Yeah.
guess would be I guess the proper term I would say would be just someone who's just chemically or wired different somehow, or it can touch into other parts of their brain that others can't. That's why we're like you and I. That's probably why we're able to see and do what we're able to do. But yeah, the word crazy, I think it's an old hat word, but it does still carry weight, especially when if they do find out they're schizophrenic or anything like that.
Yeah.
Their first probably reaction and thought in their head is, "Oh, great, I'm crazy.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I am crazy." Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things I still struggle with it. In fact, there have been times where on 3 different attempts where I've actually tried to take my life because things have just gotten so out of hand between, I didn't know it was Omar at the time. I was like 12, 13, and the voices and everything else. It was just too much stimulation for little old me,
Yeah. So just when you mentioned that, he's showing me a rope.
Yeah, one time I tried to hang myself, once I tried to slit my wrist, and then the other time I tried to overdose. So yeah, it's been a life of struggles. I've been
Yeah.
hospitalized 7 or 8 times. So
Actually, that's not a lot.
I
How
know,
old are you?
37. Yeah,
I
that's
can't do the math in 26 years.
yeah,
That's a long time. And
yeah,
Omar, I'm going to ask you to take away the energy around my eye, please.
yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you. I hear you about that. And I agree that crazy, it's like a lot of other words. There are
Yeah,
times when it can be meant in a really nasty way.
and
And times
others
when
it's
it's,
just a silly, like you're
right.
hanging out with a
Yeah.
friend or something. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like there are times when things are very kicked up, and maybe in those moments you might feel crazy.
Yeah, you really do, because there's just such an overwhelming feeling of emotion.
Mm,
The brain is not slowing down. You're seeing things, you're hearing things. It's just
mm.
a bombardment of overstimulation from every angle. Sometimes it just is so overwhelming. It's like a tidal wave.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. And I really sat with the word crazy. When I first moved to San Diego, I started going to this class, which was a mediumship development circle. I had no idea if I would see, feel, hear, or know
What would
anything,
happen? Yeah.
but things would come through. And when I first started seeing just a little bit, sometimes there were things that were happening physically in that group.
Right.
And I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm actually seeing it. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I saw like a whole Native American woman in full gear, like her energy on this other person who
Exactly.
was in the group. It was beautiful. And I remember I saw this cat. There was a stairwell and it had a landing. And I see the outline of a cat writhing around, and I'm like, holy crap, I'm seeing that.
Yeah.
But I remember, so that was perfect for that. It was
Yeah.
encouraging, right?
Yeah.
But I remember, and this was like years later, I'm sitting in my office at work and I see this cat out of the corner of my eye.
Right.
And I'm just like, oh shit. Oh no. Because
Yep. And then that word pops in your head.
yes, to me, it's, oh, the thing about being, quote, crazy would be like it's out of control.
Correct.
It was out of context.
Correct.
And am I losing my sense of what's real?
Reality. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And do I need to somehow ground myself again, or what's, yeah.
Something. And it's scary. And I still have moments. So I really work on developing my
Yeah.
mediumship all the time. Really, I take classes, I practice every day. And so new things come about,
Of course.
new experiences.
Oh, yeah.
And then there are times when I'm just, and I still have moments where I'm just like, was joking with my husband. He thinks that I'm doing something when he's not home that I can't do when he's home. And the truth is, I just really feel his energy so much. It's really hard for me to do mediumship and concentrate in the same,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But then I also realized, oh, you know what else I've been doing? I've been talking more out loud to whoever I'm talking to. And I don't want to do that in front of him because I'm afraid how I'm going to look to him is crazy.
Yeah, I've had
Yeah.
full-blown conversations with myself, even to this day. In fact, the other day on Xbox, I was talking to my best friend
Mhm.
who's in Georgia, and I just started to have a full-blown conversation with myself. And he's, "Are you okay there, buddy?" I said, "Oh, was I doing it again?"
Was I doing that out loud?
Yeah, was I doing that out loud? He's, "Yeah, you good?" I'm like, "Yeah, thanks for snapping me back."
But here's a question. Who were you actually talking to?
Honestly, I don't know. The voices in my head, whether male or female,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they'll start conversing with, or at least I think they're conversing with me, and I'll just start answering and
Yeah.
responding and having a full-blown conversation. And
You're not actually talking to yourself, though.
right,
Well,
but no
he's
one
really
else,
doing this
no one
thing with
else.
my eyes. I have to turn towards you.
Oh,
Okay.
what?
Yes.
It's
Sorry. It's, yeah.
okay.
I did ask him to back off a little bit, but look, I hear you. When I pick up on voices or an energy, I don't always know who it is. In fact, I have asked. I'm afraid to say, "Oh, let me see who's around
Yeah,
me."
because sometimes,
I don't want to.
yeah, do you really want to know the answer to what you're asking and talking to? You got to really make that call to yourself.
And thank you for saying that. Yes. And I guess there's a small part of me, and I don't know why I fear this because I don't have this issue, but I guess I'm afraid I won't be able to turn it off if I start seeing. And goodness knows what there is to see.
Yeah, there's a lot to see out there, actually. There is a lot.
Yeah. Question about Omar. The word, so as I was just saying that, I just get this awareness of him. And there's this mask, and I get the word facade actually, that he could take off.
Yes, I guess you could consider him my mask because crazy being so stigmatized, having especially such a severe mental condition, illness,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. Things like that over the years have he's I've had to put on masks for people. In front of my parents, in
Sure.
front of some school, you know.
Yeah.
But you're sitting alone there in your room by yourself, and he shows up, or some other creature, critter.
Yeah.
It's a little unnerving when 11 till I was about 14-ish. I just thought I was off my rocker,
Yeah.
just completely. I didn't think it was any coming back. But coming to terms with, I see them, they're there.
Yeah.
They talk to me, I talk to them. And as long as it stays that way and nothing else happens, I'm okay with it. So
Has it like stabilized in that way?
over the years, yeah, it really has stabilized. A lot of it also has to do with stress, like emotion again. Depends
Yeah.
on the severity of the situations and stuff like that. But other than that, yeah, it's just such a part of my life now that I'm 37, and that's 26 years. So
That's pretty much your whole
life, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just honestly, it's just second nature. There are times where it does feel like I'm lost and hopeless. In fact, for the longest time, I used to struggle with night terrors and nightmares. Me being ripped apart by creatures at night,
Oh,
screaming
gosh.
for help, and no one's there, but the blackness. Yeah,
Wow.
there are times where you can get lost at sea, I guess you could say. But knowing that they can not con you. They can convince you if they bombard you enough to do something stupid. But if you're able to reach out or to anybody, or even just try and sit and meditate and try and just connect with whatever's there and try and be like, listen, you're doing this to me.
Okay.
Can we just bring it down a notch? So
You negotiate. You
try
try
to.
to. Okay.
Yeah, you try to do the best you
Wow.
can. Yeah.
So it's not just images. I mean, it
Actual,
sounds very much
it's
my
like
experience too.
yeah, it's as
Yeah.
if someone's actually standing in the room with you or there with you. Yeah.
It's like a, I don't want to say person because that feels weird.
Humanoid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a being.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
looks humanish. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, when I see what I see, I don't necessarily see, of course, now I say that and I see a full body of a man. Often I don't, or depending on the energetic being I'm connecting with, sometimes I just see like characteristics. I believe they have
like features and yeah,
Exactly.
not quite the full thing, but enough to make that
like
makes sense.
distinctive things about them. Not often,
But you could pick up, but you could pick up on,
and consistently.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's how it started with me. So
Wow. Gosh, at 11 though.
Yeah. 11, it was a bit tough.
Wow. Now, how did you, I hope I asked this right, but so how did you know it wasn't just a spiritual awakening?
Honestly, I didn't, because I was so young. I didn't know what was happening. One of my first really bad episodes, my mom actually came into the room, stomping and kicking around the room, trying to get the things that I was seeing that she couldn't see out of the room. But then learning a couple years later that, yeah, they're there, but they can't really hurt you unless you are convinced that.
Oh, okay. As I've been sitting in this, thinking about this conversation, I remembered I saw like this ER episode where they had somebody who was having a psychotic break, and it was terrifying to me at the time. So are you familiar with this episode?
Yeah. My dad used to watch ER all the time. Yeah.
Scared the bejesus out of me that somebody that was psychotic would try to kill you. So it sounds if I'm applying that, which it was TV.
Yeah.
But if I'm applying that to what you're saying, because I just heard something else, a story about somebody who was basically stalked by somebody who said that they had psychosis, and then they held this person at knife point and they ran over their own mother. And so so when it's like succumbing to.
Yeah, basically letting everything override you, basically letting everything else take control of you. You lose control of yourself.
And I was going to bring this up, the idea of agency. Agency. And that can be applied in so many ways, right? Some people feel a great sense of agency over themselves, and they're that from like a young age.
Right.
So how would you, because you can't block Omar out, it seems.
Right.
Have you tried to block him out?
Oh, yeah. Over the years, I've tried many different things. Yeah.
Okay.
The best things that seem to help are distracting my brain as much as possible. I normally do 4 things at one time when I'm on Xbox. I talk to my friends, play video game, listen to music, and other things.
So you don't leave room.
Or anything to really take over and take control. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So
can I ask you, are you taking medication?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm on like 8 or 10 different medications. It's a cocktail, but if it keeps me level-headed and down to earth as much as possible, as much as I can be, I'm grateful for it.
Quality of life.
Exactly. Yeah.
But even with medication, you totally see him.
Yeah.
What does the medication accomplish?
The voices are one of the big ones. The voices can get so it can literally sound like someone screaming, like literally standing in your ear and screaming in it.
Yeah.
But what the meds do is they bring it down to I don't know about everyone with schizophrenia, but myself, I never know silence, true silence. So it's always some sort of white noise, but I'd take that over screaming any day. And Omar and the little creatures I see are really, I'll take that over being completely off meds and stuff and
Gotcha.
completely unhinged, possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, medications do help and support systems and everything do too.
So one of the things that I found when I did do a little bit of research, I didn't do just a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah,
I found 4 medical articles, only 4, about people testing the difference between somebody who considers themselves having a spiritual awakening and somebody who's schizophrenic. And having a strong support system is one of those things. As well as it's like what you think about what you're experiencing. Like my friend I was mentioning,
right.
she saw some scary stuff and she could go and talk to a friend about it. And she didn't isolate. She didn't feel like she let it overcome her. And then things really settled down. I'm not sure how she really got that part of it to happen. Setting energetic boundaries and that kind of thing was a big deal. Do you feel like setting energetic boundaries? Because I feel like that's something I have to do all the time. Even Omar coming to visit me,
Oh,
it's like
you
out,
should see
out.
the way my room's set up then, yeah. I try to be as feng shui as possible, try and keep the
Okay,
flow of energy as positive as possible.
gotcha.
Yeah.
What else do you have aside from feng shui?
What really helps me is making a space my own,
Okay.
feeling comfortable where I'm at, like where I'm gonna be, where I'm gonna just making little changes, even if it's just a room at a time. If you're gonna change a whole house, just do little bits here and there, and you'll be surprised at how much that's actually gonna help you.
Like the energy of the room shifting.
Yeah,
Okay.
even if you don't do feng shui and you just change up a room once a year or something like that, just completely rearrange it whole nother energy into the room. So
Totally get that. Yeah.
exactly, it puts that old energy out and brings a
Mhm.
whole nother energy in.
Yeah. We had to have some work on our house.
Mm.
And afterwards, I was just like,
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
it felt so, ugh, like new materials. And then we had a crew of people in the
Yeah, a
house.
bunch of people in
Okay.
and
Yeah.
out.
It was really hard for me to, I was
Yeah, that
impacted
flow
more
of
than I
energy. I was gonna
expected.
say, yeah, that flow of energy is crazy. I know what that's like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say schizophrenia is not that people might think it is?
The one I hate, one of the biggest ones I hate is you'll be fine. Just don't worry about it. Don't think about it. You'll be okay. The don't think about it. Oh, you're depressed. Get over it. You'll be okay. Just don't think about it. Stereotypes like that
Mhm.
really bother me. It's not the switch in the back of my brain that I can just click on and off.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately this is me. This is how I am 24/7. Yeah, but I don't mind it. I ended up in a good family, thank God. Great brother, great father, great mother.
Yeah.
I'm surrounded by good people. Yeah, and that really does help a lot, whether it's mental illness or not. Just having the
Yeah.
right people around you is good for you.
Yeah. No, okay, so I don't know if I'm going to say this very gently,
Oh,
but I'm just being honest.
just shoot, yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that I think maybe for all of us, and maybe you included even, when we see people who are living on the streets or arguing with somebody that we can't see and they're disheveled looking and they're really struggling.
Yeah.
How do you feel about them when you see them? Do you think that I look at it like, ooh, that I'm like 2 steps away from being that person. I don't want to say
Yeah.
do is so much different. They've turned maybe to drugs and alcohol. Maybe they have other
That's
mental health
probably,
issues.
yeah, and I'm sure the drugs and alcohol may have maybe their symptoms could have driven them to that point.
Oh,
They
I would
didn't seek,
assume
yeah, they
they would
didn't
have,
seek
yeah.
help. They didn't, yeah,
Look, the idea of support, if you
yeah.
didn't have the family that you had, and
I
maybe,
probably would have been right there with them.
yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
or worse. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, definitely.
And I really felt my own compassion for you. But when you were talking about how you had 3 suicide attempts because you just couldn't
Just
take it anymore.
overwhelmed. Yeah.
I actually felt it felt like from Omar too, of wow, how bad that must have been. Omar, do you want to? I feel like he's just giving me a couple words at a time. So I'm seeing the words compassion, comma, envy.
Yeah.
That makes sense to you.
Yeah. I'm a very compassionate person.
Okay.
Well, although envious, I don't know would be the word, but there have been some things in my life where they haven't exactly gone as I planned.
Yeah.
But which is most life anyways. Life's one
Yeah.
big learning lesson anyways.
Yeah.
But there were times where I've been hurt in the past and like I said, I don't know if envious would be the word, but just kind of I wish I had what I had before I was hurt or before I lost what I lost. When I first started seeing Omar and hearing things, I just remember one of my earlier thoughts was, why can't I just cover my ears and not hear anything?
Yeah.
Why can I still hear them when my hands are over my ears? But once you get over it, that's when the compassion really starts taking over, because then it's more, okay, I have this. I know I have it. There are steps I can take to at least improve my quality of life.
Okay.
Maybe not make it perfect. We live in a world where nobody and nothing is perfect.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's how I see it, or that's how at least I would interpret that. So, yeah.
And when you were hearing like the voices, and I think you might have said that, but I just feel like I lost a little bit of that clarity from before.
Oh, okay.
Do they feel as connected to some, like in the way that Omar feels like this?
Yeah,
Real being.
there have been times, yeah, where there have been times where I'm driving and I thought I heard my brother in the back seat, and I'll go to turn and talk to him
Oh, wow.
and there's no one there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there have been times where, yeah, it sounds like someone's either in the room with me or sitting right next to me or something. Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to tell that at all, huh? Except you turn and you see your brother's not in the
Mm,
car with you,
yeah,
but otherwise
exactly.
it's as real as if your brother's in
Yeah.
the car with you.
Yeah.
Why do you think that happens?
I don't know. Maybe it's something trying to send a message through or something.
Make
So I
the
would,
presence
yeah,
known
so
or
in a voice that I would like
respond
snap to.
positively to
Yeah.
it? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a, but that's at least how I see it. Yeah.
And one thing, I don't know if this is helpful to you at all, but one thing that I am trying to remember to do more is when I'm having like, whether it's in a reading or just on my own, when I'm hearing like a particular song, because you almost always have some kind of song going on. I'll wake up with one
Oh, yeah.
and then I'll be like, oh, okay. And I'll put that song on, I'll listen to it. And I don't always remember, but I'm trying to remember now to say, oh, wait, why am I hearing this song?
Yeah.
Why is
What's
this
causing me
happening?
to,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you do that when you experience things sometimes?
Sometimes, yeah. There are occasions, yeah, where you'll be like, why am I suddenly having this reaction?
Mm.
Why am I suddenly feeling this way? Why am I suddenly hearing this, seeing this? I guess it's the same concept as an earworm. You hear a song that you like, a little jingle or something, and it gets stuck in your head for a day or two. It's
But that's
similar.
if you heard it. I'm talking about stuff that like one time I got a song that I know I've never heard before. I
Right.
had to look up and I had to wait for it to come around and hear the lyrics and type it in.
Yep, I've had that.
But I'll also hear songs that I haven't heard in 30 years. So the song that I got today, I assume was related to you. I don't think you'll know the song by the title because it doesn't connect, but it's called Genius of Love. And I'm a terrible singer, but I'm going to sing it a little bit. What are you going to do when you get out of jail? I'm going to kill it. Anyway, I don't know if our audience would be able to hear this, but
Oh, I know that song.
Okay.
Yeah.
Genius of Love.
Yeah.
It's called. That makes no sense to me at all. Okay, so I'm going to pause that. But the lyrics, and this happens so many times when I'm like, wait, why am I hearing this song? And then I go to the lyrics and I'm like, that's what it says?
Yeah.
Okay, you have that too.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm in heaven with my boyfriend, my laughing boyfriend. There's no beginning. This is the part that felt like it was related to you. There's no beginning and there is no end. Time isn't present in that dimension. You'll take my arm when we're walking, rolling, and rocking. It is one time I'm glad I'm not a man. Feels like I'm dreaming, but I'm not sleeping.
Well, I do believe in the concept of infinity.
Okay.
One of the concepts is that if the universe and whatnot is infinite, then after a certain point, the universe is going to have to start repeating patterns.
Okay.
So the theory then would be that somewhere in the galaxy far away would be someone, us basically doing what we're doing right now, just in a completely another universe. So
Like a parallel?
pretty much, yeah. I guess that follows along the line of the butterfly effect too. If you could travel back in time, don't mess anything up, don't take anything, because otherwise it could completely alter the future.
Right.
That's how I feel with my brain sometimes, because the brain just, like I said, my brain just keeps going and going, and sometimes I do struggle and stumble over my words a lot sometimes, and But yeah, just an infinite possibilities. Just that makes sense. That those lines especially make sense to me. Yeah, that yeah.
Here's another question I have for you. I'm sure you're very empathic, that you pick up on energy so much.
Yes.
When you're feeling a lot, how much of that do you think might be you have, maybe try this on, that you may have completely overabsorbed energies from all around you, like your neighbors, your family, like the earth,
Yeah.
animals, that kind of thing. And so some of that is maybe flooding you.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Okay. And
It really wouldn't surprise me.
gotcha. And look,
Yeah.
there's me, like
Yeah.
I am a trained therapist and I'm a human being, but I'm also, of course, tapped in.
Yeah.
So stuff comes to me, just like Omar's words were coming to me. And that's, I'm picking up on that also has as a possibility as having its place in all of this.
I could see that. I really could.
Okay. And is that something that you would maybe look into?
Yeah,
If
if I
that's
could
happening.
Yeah, if I could figure out a way to channel it and make the symptoms less, even if it just helped to make the symptoms less, that'd be amazing. Yeah.
Okay.
Because like I said, I maybe people who are struggling with mental illness, maybe their brains are just naturally wired to pick up radio antennas.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
And I wanted to share, and you may relate to this. So when I mentioned that I moved here after a really bad chapter in
Right.
my life in New Jersey, and I was so stressed. And one of the things that happened, and it only happened this one night, was that I started hearing like a radio station, talk radio, of course, my luck,
Yeah, of course.
in my head. So I'm hearing this announcer. I don't remember anything that he's saying, but he's talking and talking. There might have been another person talking to him. I don't remember. And then I hear something like, let's see what Noelle thinks. I was like, oh, what the? It's wow.
Yeah.
That's normal. Like in your mind, you're like,
In my mind, yeah, that's so normal in my book. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, when I have conversations with myself, that's what it's like. Yeah, it's like actually just sit like you and I sitting right here right now.
Why do you say you're having conversations with yourself? It may look like that to some people.
Exactly.
What would you say if you could have a way to say it that actually was like a more accurate depiction?
I guess you could say working out a thought process
Okay.
with your inner self, possibly.
Yep.
It really would depend on
Who's talking to you and why?
and what the
right?
conversation's about. Yeah.
Totally get
But
that.
for the most part, yeah, I would try and at least see what you can work out or see what they want and see if you can work out some sort of, hey, if you give me Monday through Friday when I work, I'll give you the weekends kind of thing.
Oh, gosh.
I wish it was that easy to just turn off and on, but it isn't. But like you said, we are able to see things differently. The world, I think.
We being
Mediums such as you, and then people with any mental illness, really, because I'm sure they tap into some primordial something that allows us to connect with things that normally we shouldn't be able to connect
Yeah.
with. But I do believe that the depths of a person's soul can be different depths depending on life experiences. And one of the jokes I like to throw around to my mom is, yeah, I may be 37 and young, but I've got an old soul. Yeah, I'm 37, but I've got a soul of an 80-year-old. My wisdom and stuff that I throw out to my mom. And yeah, a lot of it I also got when I was really struggling through school and stuff like that. I got lost a lot in my work. That really helped me. Schoolwork and stuff, like really focusing on things like a history class, English literature, things that really made you focus, seemed to really help level out things and help me push everything else out for a while.
Enough intellectual stimulation to really engage your brain.
And help me just not see Omar and not hear and see other things. Yeah.
Right. So I feel like you talked about like the worst part of having these experiences.
Yeah, they can not only are they unsettling, but they can also be really what's the word? Can really dishevel you, I guess you could say. They really can throw you for a loop because, like I said, when I wasn't focused on schoolwork during high school and stuff like that, if I wasn't engaged in something really like heavy duty, whether it was reading, here you go, I read 7 times War and Peace, front to back.
Now that's crazy, Scott.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
That is a big ass book, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it's over 1,000 pages.
Why did you read that book? 7. Was it that engaging?
To me, it was.
Okay.
It engaged me enough that it was worth the read
That's
over
really
and
cool,
over.
actually, that you
Yeah.
found something that you're like, actually, this is really helping me.
And I have
Um,
my mom ages ago bought me a complete works of Edgar Allan Poe too, and I have that in my
Mm.
room. It's a book about that thick too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that something that you still engage in
Yeah.
often? Okay.
Literature and stuff like that. Oh yeah.
And is it still as effective in helping you?
Yeah. Because I know my brain pretty well by now that I know what really helps and what doesn't. Yeah. You learn little tricks and stuff too. So when you
Yeah.
can't do something like read, you learn little like meditations or little breathing techniques, stuff to try and calm yourself and
Okay.
let your muscles and whatnot just release all that tension and
Wow.
everything.
Do you ever ask Omar for help?
Yeah, not really, because since he was there since I was a kid, I was always terrified him.
Of course.
And growing up, hearing and seeing other things as well, I never really thought to ask for help. I always just left myself struggling
Yeah.
than reaching out to anybody or anything.
As I thought to ask that, and you started answering it, suddenly my impression of him is that he's blue like the ocean.
Yeah.
Now, is that another way that he presents?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll be like, but it won't be like a tropical blue like you see on like a Jamaican island or anything like that. It's more deep ocean blue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, more
Oh, I'm
almost
seeing
like a
kind
navy
okay.
midnight blue.
I'm seeing
Yeah.
more the lighter color.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I've seen him almost.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've seen him midnight black before. Yeah,
But it seems soothing to me in a way.
as a younger though, there were times where you see something like that of a different color that looks human, kind of, and your brain's trying to process. You don't know that
Yeah.
you know, that others can't see it, but
It's like a whole universe happening
it
just
really
in your own
is.
head.
It really
Yeah.
is.
That
Yeah.
must be so lonely sometimes.
Yeah, it can be. It definitely makes relationships hard, really hard.
Yeah,
So,
I would get that.
yeah.
Yeah. So question, and I don't know the answer to this. I'm not asking anything as like a test,
Yeah,
just to
yeah.
be clear. So it just occurred to me the idea of what if Omar's just like an attachment or an entity?
Again, that wouldn't surprise me, considering I've seen and heard other things besides him. So he could just be one of the constants, that he is something there that is meant to be there. I'm not sure entirely, but it would make sense if he was, because he's been there since day one.
And I really feel this sense of he sees himself as like a protector or a guardian of you. And now I'm wondering, like, is he trying to protect you from some of these other things that try to come in? And I'm feeling like that might be part of what he believes is his sense of purpose.
That'd be nice. Yeah.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it would be coming from at least the intention coming from a place of love would feel different than
A
this
place of
MFer
medicine.
is just terrorizing me for the last 26 years.
Yeah.
Totally
Getting
get
in
that.
my face and whatnot. Yeah.
I just want to share. So in preparing for our conversation,
Yes.
I asked Scott for his permission, and it was only because my friend brought up, you're going to talk to his higher self. And I was like, oh,
I should
never
do
thought
that.
that. I should totally do that. So I did. And I talked to her. Her name is Sabine. And so we talked maybe 2 days ago.
Yep.
It was great. She came through super clear. It was a wonderful mediumship session. Was that the first time you ever had some kind of mediumship reading? So I recorded myself over Zoom, like what we're doing now, basically. Yeah. And then I just emailed it over to Scott. So what was that like to see somebody else who was seeing and talking to somebody who wasn't visibly there about you?
Yeah. Interesting, actually. It was really interesting to watch because the stuff being fed to you was so accurate and so on the money. I've heard of medium readings and stuff like that, but I've never really delved into it. But to see that was really fascinating.
And Scott's higher self has her own agenda in a good way.
Well,
In a good
welcome.
way. Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome to me.
Damn, another one
Yeah,
telling us what to do. But she had some really nice ideas about
did.
starting a basically like a section on my YouTube channel to address this further in different ways. It occurred to me, and I just had this really emotional moment of what if like part of my job is just to help people who have experiences from childhood or whatever that
Exactly.
and then they end up with these abilities, and maybe my job is to help validate their abilities.
Well, and yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because that's when it started happening to me was when I was a kid, is I was 11. Yeah.
Yeah. And when I thought of you, now you're older than the kids I worked with when I worked with
Right. Yeah.
for working with teenagers, some of the more important things to do with them is to see them, like really see them.
Yeah, physically sit down with them and
Yeah. Be with them, connect with them, validate who
Yes.
they are, and normalize it. But I was thinking for you, I didn't think about the higher self reading in that way, but even how Omar showed up and I was like, oh, I see him too. I was hoping to validate for
Yeah.
you.
And you did. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like you validate for me stuff that you experience. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I totally get that.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I get it.
Just to change a little bit what we're talking about, I want to talk about fear.
Yes.
Because when I first started really getting into mediumship and experiencing different, and I've experienced, I don't remember a lot of it,
Right.
but there are some things that have been scary, some things that have been amazing, and like everything in between. And mainly it's in between. But I remember a friend giving me some advice, and she said, actively do not be afraid.
Yeah, it's like throwing fuel on a fire, whether it's a spiritual connection or something. If you start fearing it, that fear is going to seed itself, and then that's when you're allowing everything else to just eventually blow out of proportion somehow, some way down the road.
Totally get that. And as I was sitting with the idea of agency, and I'm reworking things in my own mind about myself and how I can help people, and sitting with the idea that some people seem to have, not a lot of people, but anyway, have this like strong sense of like internal agency. As I thought about dealing with my own fear of, oh gosh, what if one of your people's, hey, she seems nice, and decides to, and the idea of agency being like, no, I know who I am. And when I set an intention, I can believe, even though I'm working on this, believe that my intention holds weight, my boundaries hold weight, because I have to believe that they do.
Well, that's one thing I've always struggled, not always. I'm just finally getting around to getting a control on is that the not just the fear of things, it's the unknowns that go with the fear. Because you may know, okay, great, I have schizophrenia, but now a whole new door and world's open now. Symptoms, classifications, it's just a whole nother steam room you have to get through, unfortunately, because there's different types. You have schizophrenia, schizoaffective. I mean, yeah. But for the most part, yeah, the fear can really break you down. Even if you try really hard to just come to terms with it, if you don't have a base, something support underneath you, if you try to make that leap and you don't have that bungee cord attached, you're just going to keep falling. I've been down that rabbit hole a few times.
You would have had to learn the hard
Oh,
way.
yeah.
And you look, it's not like you had normal brain functioning
Right.
visuals
Yeah.
until you were a certain age. And you're like, I've got this base of, I have a
Of
set
what life is
already.
like.
Yeah. To get back to a quote normal baseline.
Yeah. Well, I've always think and seen differently than other people around me.
Can you like walk down the street and you're like, oh yeah, he's got that too? Do you see the energy of this?
Yeah, I can people's postures and stuff like yeah, I can tell by the energy people give off. Yeah.
Wow.
What they struggle with, what they don't struggle with. Yeah.
Oh, in general, not even
Yeah,
about
not even
this.
just this. Yeah.
Oh,
I can
interesting.
yeah, I can
Hmm.
yeah. I've always been able to do that.
What else can you do?
My mom always said she's glad I wasn't a con artist
Mm.
because I can do an octopus. I can hide myself in groups.
Oh, wow.
I can be with this group of friends and be one way. I can be with this group of friends, be another
Mm.
way. But that's also because of the fact that since 11, I've been seeing and hearing things. I struggled for a long time trying to find my own identity, trying to find out who I was as a person and whatnot. But yeah, other than that,
And some of that's just normal.
exactly.
And
Human being
yeah,
behavior, anyways.
yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of us can be chameleon-like.
Yeah.
We want to feel like we fit in or feel
Workplace,
accepted.
whatnot.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I want to make a joke. There were places I've worked, I never cursed. That was a total mask.
Exactly. See?
That isn't me, but I was able to pull it off for the
Same.
most part. But
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
you adapt to your
Fake it
environment
till
for
you make it.
survival kind of
Fake it till
thing.
you make
Yeah,
it. Yep.
yeah,
That's what it really boils down to is survivability.
yeah. And like you were saying, quality of life
Yep.
and yeah. I hear you about the fear though,
Yeah.
that you don't want to feed into that,
You
even
don't
when
want to feed into it.
yeah.
Yeah, and you don't want to let it just take over either.
Yeah, it was interesting feeling visited by Omar. Again, not my first rodeo in that way.
No, but still. Yeah.
And I had to make a conscious decision, like I'm not going to let myself be afraid. And I got a little bit of a pep talk from a mentor of mine. I was telling her about, I've been excited about this.
Right.
I've talked to her for weeks. Seriously. And she said, you have to remember that the light is so much stronger than the dark. It's so much more powerful than the dark.
It really
So
is.
they have more to fear of you. Not that I'm going to do anything.
Right,
I'm more
yeah.
connected to the light
Yeah.
of thing. So it was interesting to really have it. I had to test it out for myself and even allowing Omar to come and sniff around my house.
Good to know.
Yeah.
that he stopped by before. Yeah. Just poking the head in,
Yeah.
taking a look around.
Are you okay? Do you
Approve the
pass?
place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, it's like when bringing the boyfriend or girlfriend home to the parents. Hope they approve.
Yeah. Yeah. And part of that is feeling out the energy. Like you were
Exactly.
saying, do I trust the intention of this person? Something feels off, something doesn't feel off.
That's another thing. People say, "Oh, it's a gut feeling." No, I don't think there is such a thing as a gut feeling. I think it's you're in touch with something a little deeper than just, "Oh, my stomach." It's obviously something is giving you a pang of something
A
to
figure of
alert
speech,
you.
but I hear
Yeah.
what you're saying. I was just talking to somebody who I do some kind of spiritual coaching with, and she was saying how she feels so much in her solar plexus area. It was the first time we were really talking about that.
Right.
And so it's not her gut or her this or her that, but she actually feels like when she feels.
Yeah, it tightens right in here.
Yeah.
Right under the diaphragm. Yep. Yeah, it's this just clenching feeling like, oh,
Yeah,
something's
knot.
not right.
knot, yeah.
Something feels weird. Yeah. It's like like the bad juju feeling, the bad aura. Yeah.
Now you poo the gut part because you maybe feel it so much more like the totality of you
Yeah, I was
feels
gonna
it,
say,
not
yeah,
just in your gut. But some people, I think they really do just feel it
in their gut. Yeah.
but you don't.
Yeah.
Totally
No,
get that.
yeah, when it hits me like a freight train, unfortunately. 600 miles an hour.
So there's a part of me that wants to ask you.
Go for it.
It's a two-parter. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if you're feeling aware of, and you touched a little bit on this before, but like, is there like a spiritual purpose or meaning for you to be built this way, that you have these abilities? And just to poke a little bit further, are you open to at some point maybe doing things with them? Dude, wouldn't you
I'd
be an
be okay
amazing
with it.
medium?
I'd be okay with it. Yeah. If I could learn to channel or control at least a little bit of how to make the flow of things a little less, yeah, that'd be incredible.
Okay. And do you have a sense of what is the spiritual meaning or purpose for you having this?
Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that because ever since I was a little kid, I sometimes have dreams and then they'll become reality.
Okay.
Kind of like deja vu moments, I guess you'd say.
Premonitions or precognitive
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Call it that too. Yeah. Okay.
I'll have a dream one night and it's not necessarily like the next day. I've had dreams and they won't happen until years later.
Oh, wow.
I've had many, not just one or two, but a whole, yeah, I've had many over the years growing up.
You mentioned about you can see certain things on
Yes.
people. Do you pick up on, oh yeah, I see her grandmother walking with her? Do you have that kind of thing too?
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah, I can pick up on if I'm closer to the person, I can usually pick up on it more, but I can usually just tell from a certain distance, oh yeah, this person's
Wow.
being followed by, or this
Mhm.
person's talking to, or thinking about. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
And when you see them, let's say the grandfather is following them, right? Do you ever have this moment with the grandfather? Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, actually, I have in the past. Standing there walking my dog on the sidewalk or something, and someone will walk by and they'll walk by. I don't raise my hand until after their loved one walks by, and then it looks like I'm just going stop to
But
nobody.
you're saying hi to the
To the
grandfather.
grandfather or whoever. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Used to do the same thing as a kid too.
Huh.
Yeah, except I just found out recently within the last year or so on my dad's mother's sister's side, we are related to Elvis.
Wow.
It's distant,
Gotcha.
but
I hear you.
the crazy thing is when I was little is I first time I saw Elvis, I called him my old grandpa. I would call him my old grandpa.
Wow.
There's always been those little the dreams and those kind of things. Yeah.
And I'm remembering just as you said that, it came back to me that your higher self shared her, I don't know if it's just her theory. Higher selves usually are in on the good
Goods, yeah.
things, right?
Yeah.
But do you remember what she said about why you are having this experience in this life? Why you chose this experience in this life? And sorry, I'm
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
yeah, it was so that I could push forward with this life now and then help others that come.
yeah,
So
who have
what
these
I had,
situations.
yeah.
And how did that feel to hear that from her?
Like when like an army officer walks into the room, all the soldiers are at attention. Whoa, made me stand up straight. Wow, okay, that's okay. That gives me a reason to not be afraid anymore of struggling this with all this. And I'm able to do this with you now in this present moment. So that's perfectly okay with me.
So somebody's emotion is coming through. So I'm just going to see who, do you know
Yeah,
who's
I think it might be.
the Sybil's? Yeah, I
Yeah,
get that too.
yeah.
And what is she feeling
I
right
don't know.
now? Do
I
you
feel
understand?
floaty. I feel floaty,
Oh,
like I'm floating.
okay.
Feels interesting.
Do you think you're feeling that because you're feeling connected to her?
Possibly.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Higher selves, it's cool to be able to connect
Oh
with a
yeah.
higher self. Everybody's got their vibration.
Yeah.
Part of my friend's theory that I was telling you about is that part of why some people might see things like demons or have really negative experiences is that their own vibration level is low.
Yeah.
And for all of us, like me being scammed by this psychic woman,
Right.
my vibration was low. And so I was easy prey to a predatory person.
Right.
And so that's part of her theory that she's a neuropsychologist. So she's put a lot of thought into this and a medium. Anyway, but it was really interesting to hear her say that and the idea that lifting our vibration. So even that you're connecting, she's your higher self. So she's going to look to connect with you. But that's a totally different vibration.
Oh yeah.
Than,
by far.
Than Omar.
Oh yeah.
When I was going to connect with her, just so you all know, I made sure to get in touch with Scott and say, this is what I'm doing, because I just knew, you would feel it. So I was like, there's going to be a disturbance in the force.
Which there was. Yeah.
So did you feel something when I was connecting with her?
Yeah.
What'd you feel?
Kind of, not like a weight on my shoulders, but it was like a weight, but it wasn't like a, oh my God, I'm carrying a weight.
Yeah.
It was like when the grandpa puts his hand on the grandson's shoulder, teaches him how to swing a baseball bat kind of thing. That kind of reassurance that you're doing a good job. You're
Oh, okay. Now I'm feeling something right here. Are you feeling anything right here?
no, mine's down here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So for those of you that are listening and not watching, I was feeling some pressure on the top right side of my head.
And I'm feeling something on the bottom left base of my skull.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did you just start feeling it?
Yeah, a little
Okay.
tickle or something. Yeah.
And now it's gone, right?
Yeah.
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 So the cool thing about having this conversation with you, really, I mean, on many levels, it's been wonderful. But I love that at first I was like, what? Mediums and people with schizophrenia are like,
neck and neck, head and head. Yeah. We're all in the same pot.
Yeah, but we are. And
We
now
are.
I was like, all right, I could see there's two steps, but even just the more we're spending time, I'm like, it's much smaller than that.
Maybe a line in the sand,
Yeah.
and the sand's getting washed away a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to be careful not to sound like condescending. I feel like
Well,
it's
go ahead.
okay.
No.
But
Yeah.
I maybe because I was trained as a therapist, and also I have people in my family who have really very different, looser emotional boundaries. So I can be pretty rigid at times about my emotional boundaries and energetic. But I feel like that also really helps because otherwise I would feel bombarded
Yeah.
by people in spirit or energies that I pick up on.
Oh yeah.
So I have strong walls.
That's good that you have that. Trust
Yeah.
me. Trust me.
No,
Yeah.
totally get that.
Yeah.
So do you think that is something that maybe you could start exercising a bit more
Oh
and
yeah,
see how it
absolutely.
impacts you?
Oh yeah. I actually do little meditations and stuff to try and help me just reduce things, reduce the voices, and try and focus either on just one voice or maybe one thing that, like, let's say Omar is in the corner of the room again. Yeah, I'll watch TV and I'll just keep an eye on you, but that's where I'm going to leave you.
Okay. What's the word?
Boundary, I guess. Yeah,
Boundary,
that's your
like the
space.
opposite of a mesh, like differentiating.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
that's your space. This is my space. I'll stay here. You stay there. Yeah.
Do you ever feel he gets mad at you when you set boundaries or anything?
Oh yeah, in the past. Oh yeah,
Mm.
horrible when I was a kid. Yeah, it was really bad. Actually, most of my hospitalizations were when I was a kid. My most recent one was when I was 22. So that's
That's a long
16
time
years.
ago.
Yeah,
How are you
15,
able
16
to
years.
not?
Really, it came down to a lot of things. Finally, eventually reaching out, not just to my family, but to actually try and figure out what is going on with me, why I'm feeling this way, why am I seeing and hearing these things. The other part also is that once you know what it is and that it does have the possibility, there's always the possibility it could hurt you, not necessarily physically, but emotionally it can tear you down, which can lead to other things.
Got it. That makes
But
sense.
yeah, once I was about 16 or so, that's when I really started to come to terms and acceptance and open my mind to the possibility that I'm wired differently.
Okay.
I,
Self-acceptance.
yeah, going from there. So first is basic. It's coming to terms with grief almost. It's a process.
Gotcha.
You come to terms, yeah, this is me. This is who I am. This is how I am. And then really, once you put in the initiative to seek help or guidance or anything, it can really take you a long way really quickly in a really good direction
Okay.
if you're willing to put in even a little bit of time and effort into yourself.
Gotcha.
Like we've said several times, support. The support is a big one.
Yeah. And the thought is coming to me about shame. And part of what you'd have to do is
Get
really
over the
be
shame. Yeah,
really honest and authentic about what you're experiencing. So you would have to let go of all of the shame about it
that you're
to
feeling
get
that
the help that you actually
exactly.
need. Was that hard for you?
Extremely hard for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with because my brother came into the picture when I was 5. Yeah, it was rough because then my brother, he's on the spectrum. He's autistic.
Okay.
My son is autistic. And then there's me who is in the middle.
I want to make a joke. You're the oddball.
Exactly. I'm the odd one out. Yeah.
It must be nice to be the oddball.
It is.
Got
It
that,
is.
yeah.
Yeah. But I've really come to terms like, yeah, I may be different than others. Yeah, I'm different than my brother and my son, but they love me for who I am. I love them for who they are. And as long as we have that caring and sharing and support for each
Yeah.
other, then that's really what it comes down to and what matters most is that support. And actually, I think the biggest part is loving yourself first, being able to love yourself first and overcome the wall of, listen, I have a mental illness. I know it's not great, but there are things I can do to make my life better and progress farther and become successful in life.
Yeah.
So I really do believe that these things are reasonable dreams, no matter how crazy you think you are. A lot of the times they're within reach. You just gotta be willing to take that first step.
Yeah. And I think self-love
Is important, especially in
so
today's
important.
society.
Yeah. And I think that's extremely hard.
Oh yeah.
And when you have anything that compared to somebody else,
Oh yeah.
you're like, oh, compared to them,
Yeah, Joe Schmo sitting next to you. Yeah, he's all whistling and happy, and you're sitting there dwelling on yourself. Yeah,
easy to feel less than.
exactly. And that's where if you let that spiral, that's where you go into that's when fear, it all just starts going down. Fear and everything just starts going, building and everything,
Yeah.
and it just escalates.
So like depression or other
Yeah, and
things
it'll
that
just
come up.
become, everything will just start falling apart. It's almost like a domino effect, you
Totally
could
get
say.
that. There are cycles to things.
Yeah.
With any sort of even,
Some cycles are nicer than others. Yeah.
I get that.
But if you're willing to take the steps and stuff, you can get over most obstacles.
Absolutely.
So
Even really
big ones that
Yeah.
you think are impassable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There were years that I thought, how am I going to make it to 40? I was sitting there at 18 thinking like, how am I going to make it to 40 with this?
Yeah.
But here I am, almost 40.
How do you
So
feel about it now?
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good.
Seems like it actually.
Yeah, putting in the time and effort. Actually, honestly, it took my mom kicking me in the butt because I'm one of those kind of people that puts myself on the back burner for other people, especially those I care about.
Yeah.
So it took my mom kicking me in the butt, saying, get a hold of your doctor. It's her job. It's job reassurance. You're making sure she has the job.
Job security.
Yeah, job security. Yeah.
Okay.
I got in contact with her and her team and everything, and that was about 2 years ago, and I've been doing progressively better since. So yeah, between that and my family, my pop, my mom, my brother, my son, they're all 100% behind me, and I'm 100% behind them.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So I just got a sensation on my face right here. Are you
Yeah,
feeling
mine's on the
anything?
bridge of my nose. Yeah, where my glasses are sitting right there.
Yeah. So if you're listening and not watching, I just got a sensation on the right side of my nose,
Yeah,
right by my
mine's
eye.
right in the
Oh,
bridge.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're making sure we know that we're connected, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
So question. So for somebody who is starting to experience, or maybe has for a long time, and they try to push it away, seeing things or hearing things and have that background fear, what would you suggest?
If you're having that fear and you're seeing and hearing things, really the first thing to do is reach out, whether it's a family member or a best friend, something like that. Be like, hey, listen, I'm going through some stuff. Can you help me? Or can we go do something? What you want to do is try and see if you can just distract it. If there's something in your routine you could do that could help mitigate things and make things easier. But for the most part, if you're seeing things and hearing things and you're in that kind of fear area, the best thing would be to remember is that they're loud, they're scary, but they can't physically, actually, they're not like a spirit. They can't grab you and take hold of you. They can say things, they can shape shift, they can do things, but really, when it comes down to actually hurting you, really, it breaks down to them beating you down to the point where you hurt yourself. You just become a pile of rubble, basically.
Like a bully, like what a bully does.
Exactly. Just
Okay.
beat you down and beat you down and beat you down. Yeah.
Yeah, now I'm getting a pain on the left back side of my head.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, about being persistent.
Yeah.
Being persistent. And sorry, I'm supposed to ask this. So actually, I before we do your question, whoever has that question. So here's my other part of that kind of question. So if somebody's starting to hear and see and feel things, you're saying reach out and talk to people about it, because it might not be schizophrenia.
Correct.
It might be genuinely just a spiritual experience. And the
Correct.
difference between somebody who has spiritual experiences and schizophrenia, how would you define the difference? Because now we're seeing very clear there's tons of overlap, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the difference?
Really, I think the only difference comes down to most of the time I would think medium setting, you'd be able to get aggression and whatnot. But with schizophrenia, when you hear something yelling at you, you feel in your soul like someone is angry at you and despising you and just mad at you, or you hear screaming. It can be terrifying, but the difference also, I think, is you're probably more able to communicate a little more easily with an actual spirit than you would be an actual hallucinate if
But
it was a spiritual.
But
Yeah,
is it a hallucinate? Because
exactly.
I'm feeling pretty clear right now
It's mine. Oh yeah,
that, yeah, these are not just
exactly.
your brain playing, which I thought it was. That's what I thought schizophrenia was. I didn't know
Yeah.
it's also you're doing the same thing I'm doing, but you're experiencing a different type, maybe a different level.
What I think, yeah, really, I think what it breaks down to, in the most part, other than emotion, is really just the emotion that you get from it. Because Omar's there, yeah, we know he's there, and yeah, he's messed with us a few
Let's
times.
say he's got an agenda,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
he's not trying to be overwhelming.
Exactly.
But these other energies
Can be. Yeah.
And when I do connect with people on the other side or energies on the other side, there isn't like a whole ton of emotion. I might
Right.
tear up during a reading or something because I'm feeling them in that moment, but it dissipates. But it sounds like what you get, it doesn't really dissipate in that way.
Yeah, the only real thing is the emotions you feel. Yeah.
Interesting. Now, I also looked up some of the other symptoms of schizophrenia
Yes.
so that other people can, oh, okay, I don't have those things too.
That's
right?
why I said there's so many subcategories. You have schizophrenia, and then you've got like schizoaffective.
Let's just focus on the schizophrenia for
Yeah.
right now. So the other things are disorganized thinking
Yes.
and delusion.
Yes. Those can be anywhere from a God complex. You think you're invincible.
Okay.
To
So that's a delusion.
Yeah.
Okay.
To the FBI and CIA are out to get me and have wired all my phones and tapped my house and stuff like that.
Another delusion. Now, right there, can I just stop you for a sec? Can you remember where we were?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So versus hallucinations. So delusions are ways of thinking of things that are tiny bit plausible kind of thing.
Highly unlikely.
But highly unlikely.
Yes.
Whereas a hallucination is like this thing you're experiencing. So like I see things in my mind's eye. I call it clairvoyance, but for somebody with schizophrenia, they would, or diagnosing them with that, they would say
be a hallucination.
A visual hallucination.
Correct.
So I hear songs and music and I don't hear voices, but I get things in my head. I hear words.
Yeah.
I call that clairaudience.
And we call that auditory hallucination.
Right. I feel things on my body. I'll feel like chills in certain areas.
Same.
Sometimes I feel a tapping, or I was feeling stuff on my head. I would call that clairsentience. You would call that
a sixth sense. Really? That's what I mean.
I love that. Thank you for saying that. But in the term
in schizophrenic terms, it would be a
tactile
hallucinations. Yeah.
How we define things
is just really who you're asking, which doctor, which person category.
No, it's tricky because somebody who is really suffering, look, what you described, I wouldn't wish on anybody. That would be terrible, terrifying at times.
Oh yeah.
But being a medium, who I'm connecting, it's not even just being a medium. I shouldn't even say it that way. I feel like I could be wrong, but it feels to me like the way that I have had boundaries set up and my intentions put out over, I've been doing this for decades to varying degrees, not as much as I am now. I feel like I've got these, what I'm seeing the term come through is like permanent boundaries. So maybe that's why certain, no offense, Omar, but beings like Omar might visit and say hello, but they don't hang around.
Right.
Because there is no real room for that. But that feels weird to say that. I'm doing a better job than you are, Scott, at setting boundaries.
No, it makes far more sense because you're just looking at it more of a spiritual level, whereas doctors that have diagnosed me are looking at more of a brain chemical imbalance type.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the disorganized thinking.
Yeah, that can get troublesome.
So you have that too.
Yeah. Okay. Thinking one straight train of thought. Because when you're trying to speak and you're trying to think, I have the same trouble when I write too. A lot of time if I handwrite stuff, you'll notice I put in capitals in weird places and stuff. That's just because I'm trying to get the idea or thought, whatever, out as fast as possible. Otherwise, I just stumble and just lose track and
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Become a jumbled mess.
Gotcha. But these are good distinctions for people who are like weighing it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're like a medium with some super bonuses you didn't want.
Extra bonuses. Yeah. Yeah, I signed the lifetime warranty, but I didn't read the small print.
You have to read
The terms and conditions.
That's how they get you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Gosh. I just am feeling so grateful to have had this
Oh
conversation
yeah,
with
I'm glad you extended the offer. Yeah.
Yeah. And it does feel to me like if you're open to it, maybe there's some resources that we can put on my YouTube channel
Sure.
and have its own page on there for people who are interested in maybe hearing more from you or
Okay. Yeah.
maybe making some other things available to
Okay.
maybe help other people learn how to block out some of the voices or cope with
Yeah,
it.
I'd be happy to help you with that.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
And I hope for our audience that all of you, because I get the fear. I get the fear of I'm crazy. Holy shit, I can't get rid of this thing. What
But
is
it's such a
happening?
norm these days. Everyone's crazy in some sort of way.
I can't argue with that. Do you have anything else you want to say before we end for right now?
Other than just try and stay strong, which anybody should do, because life's always trying to throw curveballs our way, one way or another.
We're here to
Work,
learn.
life,
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. And if we're here to learn, none of us learn when it's easy.
Exactly.
Really.
That's why life's one big learning experience. That's what it's meant to be. So
Yeah.
we do have some these days, and we have things like technology and stuff that we can really help us out, but we're not much different than a few millennia ago, where we're still living in houses in the plains and stuff like that. We're still wired the same way. We're all the same. We just have our own little crazies.
Yeah.
Forms of crazy, I guess it would be.
Yeah.
Our own little forms of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can work together in partnership with Omar to undo some of the stigma, to help people who are experiencing what are just spiritual experiences, potentially. I'm not diagnosing anybody.
Right.
I'm a therapist, but I'm nacho therapist. I've been dying to say that in a way, the cheese that's not your cheese, nacho cheese. I am not your therapist. So if you are having symptoms and experiences,
reach out to either family or there are resources. There are always free resources available.
Yeah.
There are tons of resources.
And maybe go see a mental health professional and get their opinion. Now, but you could also talk to somebody, I would think, who's a mental health professional and say, look, before we even get together, I just want to be clear. My spiritual perspective allows for.
Absolutely.
So I need
make it
you
clear.
to,
yes. You need to make yourself very clear. You need to tell the professional where your lines are, where your boundaries are. Yes, absolutely. Communication is absolutely key.
I had some health stuff happen and I really learned, wow, you have to really select your doctor.
Yeah.
You could end up with somebody who I just saw a doctor that I was feeling really good about until my last visit. And he said, there's nothing you can do about that unless you believe in the placebo effect. Why bother getting tested for that? And I was just like,
really? Yeah.
I think I need a new doctor.
It's one of those coming. Yeah.
And that's not his style. So he might have been having a bad day, but I selected
But it was
that
enough.
doctor.
Yeah. It was enough of a concern that,
Somebody don't take away somebody's hope. Don't take away anybody's hope.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I look at it.
So don't make them. Yeah.
Don't make them feel worse.
That's along the lines of just being, honestly, if you're talking to from a mental health aspect, that's like bullying someone.
Yeah.
That's like someone saying when you're depressed, oh, don't be so sad. Get over it. You'll be fine.
Or there's a weakness in you.
Because you're sad. Yeah. That's another stigma. Yeah. Especially with men, unfortunately. Mental illness and the fact that being sad or anything like that is, forbidden. But just allow yourself to be you.
That's the best advice in the whole freaking world.
Right there, you'll start being happier. Just let yourself be you. We're all sorts of crazy. We're all sorts of crazy. Crazy's the word of the day.
Okay, so is it okay if I put my arm under your arm? So from these crazies to you crazies. Thank you for sharing this time with us. Thank you for being here. I hope you all got value out of hearing from Scott.
And if you guys want me back, I'm more than happy to come back.
I'm barely letting you go now.
But no, if you would really like to have me back, I'm more than happy to come back. Yeah.
So check on my YouTube channel because we're going to put some resources together and we'll put it on there to support everybody who's questioning or not sure or just needs the extra support.
Even just a comforting, hey, how's it going? I hope you're having a good day. Yeah.
So thank you.
Oh yeah, of
I
course.
can't even say thank you enough. This was.
I know, it's okay. I'm just glad I was able to, yeah.
Oh,
No, yeah.
yeah. Okay, we'll see you next week. Take very good care of yourselves. I'm Noelle Dean. I'm your host, and thank you for being here for Mediumship Sparks. Take care.
Awesome.